Advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Well, good afternoon. Carl Rominger here. 540-0580 is the talk line, as always. As you know, we answer your legal questions. But on today's special edition, I've got the top-notch lawyers. I can't use the word specialist or expert, or I can, right?
Well, you can.
Okay. Well, wait. At least one of them is an expert or a specialist, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But they were the website for their law firm, and the name of their firm, basically, is paworkerscomphelpnow.com.
That's
right?
correct.
I get that right? All right, guys, introduce yourselves.
My name is A.J. Palutis. I'm a Pennsylvania workers' compensation attorney representing injured workers and their families in the whole WHP listening area.
And our other guest has been on once before, so go ahead.
Well, I'm Fred Hay. I'm a partner of AJ. And I would point out that we have offices in Harrisburg, Allentown, and Carlisle. But if you're within the sound of our voice and you can't make it to one of our offices, we can come to you.
Now, let me tell you why I brought you guys on the show, just so I can make fun of you for 2 hours. Now, seriously, the real reason is a lot of times when I get a phone call and a client gets on the phone and we start talking about their case, and I say, well, there seems to be a workers' compensation aspect to this. I quite often will call you guys up. So I figured, let's just cut out the middleman here for a minute. And so on today's show, well, we'll take all your legal questions as always. If you have a workers' compensation or a disability-style claim question, especially one that involves employment, this is going to be a special opportunity to get them answered directly by two guys who know more about it than I do. And there's two of them. And I always say two attorneys is better than one and three is better than two. And so you got three total here thinking about your problem. So it's a good day to call in with it, 540-0580. And also, they're going to talk to you a little bit about a seminar they're doing. So we'll ask them more about that in a second here. But before I take a few callers, what is a workers' compensation claim, or when do I have one, or who do you represent?
We represent the individual worker who's been injured on the job in Pennsylvania, as in most states, all states actually. The remedy for an injured worker is through the workers' compensation system. The injured worker is not able to bring an action directly against the employer in civil liability, meaning suing them in court. The remedy is through the workers' compensation system for wage loss benefits and for any medical costs that are associated with that injury.
So I also, what if I have a car accident? If I have a car accident, I'm driving to work. Am I under workers' compensation?
Well, not necessarily. If you're simply commuting from your home to your place of work where you're going to be all day,
right,
that's not covered by workers' compensation. Now, if you have a job where you're required to drive as part of the job, let's say between two job sites, or if you're going directly from your home to a job site, that may very well be covered by workers' compensation. And, of course, there could also be a lawsuit. If the collision was caused by another driver, there could be a lawsuit there, and there are workers' compensation implications to that as well. And
I know that from experience that we sometimes have cases where you guys are doing the workers' compensation side and I'm doing the technical term, I guess, the third-party tort fees, or that car out of the blue driven by the little blue-haired lady who smacked into the guy while he was going to pick up parts at the Napa or something, right?
That's correct. And in that particular situation, the law does not allow the injured worker to have what's known as a double recovery. So while you, for example, Carl, would be pursuing the automobile litigation, you always will be mindful that anything that's recovered in that case could potentially be, and the technical legal term for it is subrogation, but to pay back the workers' compensation insurance company for any benefits that have been paid as a result of that accident.
All right. Well, guys, tell us about the seminar quick, and then we'll take a few callers here.
Okay. Well, We have a branch office in downtown Carlisle. It's right off the square at 1 East High Street. And on November 14th, that's a Thursday, we are sponsoring a free seminar, 2 sessions, one at 3, one at 5. No cost, no obligation. You can come in, have all of your workers' compensation questions answered in person. And, Carl, we're inviting you to come, too, if you'd like.
Is that Thursday?
Thursday, November 14th.
Let me check my custody schedule, but I probably can do it.
So this would give folks, if Carl's there, you can ask him anything at all. It doesn't have to be about workers' comp. And AJ and I will be there to cover any workers' comp related questions.
And that's free, and it's in downtown Carlisle. You can't. My uncle used to say nothing's free. So the catch is, I guess theoretically, we might end up with some clients out of it. But in exchange for our time, people are going to get some valuable information.
That's correct, and they'll also get to meet the man behind the microphone here, the infamous Carl Rominger.
That's true, and I'll be dressed better than I am right now. I'll let the guys describe me later. John, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger and some esteemed workers' compensation attorneys. What's going on here?
Carl, how are you?
Good.
I'm afraid mine's not about workers' comp, but I had a question about Social Security.
It's okay. Go ahead. That's in their wheelhouse.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Back in, what was it, 2009, when the stock market was crashing and the whole world was going to hell, I happened to be 62, and I had applied for Social Security, or at least I put my name in. I don't know what I was thinking, but it's like I applied, but I had no intention of collecting benefits. And then I went round and round with them over the years. They sent me a couple of checks eventually, and then I sent them back, and they lost them. Anyhow, long story short, as you say, come to find out, if you apply at 62, you have 1 year to change your mind. I found this out way after, and I've been fighting them about. And my point is, because I was trying to reset it so I could collect at 66, which I am now, and they denied me because of this 1 year rule. And my contention was I didn't know about it. Nobody told me about it. It wasn't in writing. It wasn't in big black and red letters or something like that. And my question is there anything you can do? Is there any recourse to changing this around? Because they've denied me
I don't know.
multiple times.
Act of Congress is one, but Fred may have another.
Well, the short answer is no.
That's what I figured.
If you take Social Security at age 62, you are subject to a 25% reduction over what your full retirement amount would be.
Yeah.
And to many people, it is an advantage to take it at 62. Now, the one thing you do have going for you now that you are 66 is that there is no longer an offset for any earnings that you may have. So you can collect your full age 62 Social Security benefit without it being reduced by any money that you earn.
All right. Well, my contention was, like you said, there's a 25% reduction between 62 and 66, which is, in my case, is percentagely, well, it's about 25%, which I could really use. And I don't know, I guess I screwed myself, which I'm really good at.
Well,
and I think the people out there should become aware of it, because I never heard of it. If you apply at 62, you have 1 year to change your mind, and that's it.
Well, I took Social Security at 62, and basically the reason I did is because if you look at the your projected lifetime benefit, you will receive more over your lifetime if you take it 62 than you will if you wait until you're 66. But yes, it's a significantly lower monthly amount.
All right.
All right. Sorry about that.
All righty. Thank you. That's what I figured.
Take care. 540-0580. Richard, you want to talk about a tractor-trailer accident?
Yes. Hey, gentlemen, how are you today?
Good.
Several years ago, I was working for a company and was a road salesman for them. And I was going down the turnpike one day. A tractor-trailer decided he wanted my lane. I was in a position where I couldn't back off, and so his back wheels ran me into the Jersey barriers, basically totaled my car. He didn't stop. He kept going. I wasn't close enough beside him to get the name of the firm. But subsequently, I wound up having back surgery and was out of work for several weeks. And when I went back to work, just as a caveat, now I've been disabled for about 5 years, and this was probably 12, maybe 13, 14 years ago.
All right, Richard, what we're going to do, we're going to go to break here. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about your tractor-trailer accident, all right? Hold on.
Yeah, that's fine. Great. No problem.
540-0580. See you guys in a minute. All right, I'm back. Eating a little Arby's. I'm sure the guys are thrilled to have me sitting here eating in front of them, but I just rolled in and started eating. All right, Richard, you're talking about your tractor-trailer incident, okay?
Yes. And after the surgery, of course, I went back to work on light duty. And I was sitting there one day, and actually the president of the company came in, and he handed me a paper, and he said, "I want you to sign this." And as I read through it, what he was really telling me was that he wanted me to sign this to release him from any kind of legal action due to the accident. And at the time, I had a kid in college, and my wife wasn't working, and I was kind of between a rock and a hard place. And I said, "Well, let me talk to an attorney to read through this." And he said, "No." He said, "Either you sign it now or you're fired."
And where was this company out of? What town?
Lancaster.
Okay. So it's a Pennsylvania case. All right. Let's hear the gentleman respond. AJ,
okay,
Fred?
well, I signed the paper.
Well,
okay, well, they're going to respond here.
First of all, I mean, you've described a classic work-related motor vehicle accident.
Okay.
I presume, or at least I hope, that you did receive workers' compensation benefits while you were off work.
Well, I did, but he was trying. What he was trying to get me to do was he even cut that, or tried to cut that, and not give me my commissions on sales that I had already made. He wanted me to just take the workers' compensation with no commission based on the sales that I had already made up to that point.
Now, Richard, you said that you have been disabled for 5 years.
Oh, that's because of this of the accident, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And then I went to work for another company, also in Pennsylvania, and at that company I also had a fall that I fell on my back, and I did not file for workman's compensation from that one. I just worked through it, and so I think I'm really screwed, is what I think. But right now I'm disabled. Been disabled for 5 years, and I'm wondering if there's any recourse for me to go back to any of these companies and now try to sue for unemployment compensation based on what happened.
Well, you say you did or did not sign something with the first employer.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
Okay.
You did sign something with the first employer. That president put it in front of you, signed it.
Yeah, I did sign it.
Yeah.
Did you ever receive a copy of it yourself?
I don't think so. I don't think I got a copy of it.
And Richard, over the past 5 years, have you received any workers' compensation benefit checks?
No.
When you went to work at your second employer and you had an injury at that employer, what happened when you reported that injury, or did you say you did not report that injury?
I reported to my boss, and he said, "Well, why didn't you just file a full-blown workman's compensation deal?" And I said, "Because I'm trying to be a good employee, and I didn't want to, make a lot of waves."
Sure.
And So I did not file that one.
Well,
But
Richard, you had mentioned the fact that this first original injury occurred approximately 5 years ago. It
was actually longer than that.
Okay, well, under Pennsylvania workers' compensation law, as there is in most legal scenarios, there's what's called a statute of limitations.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of.
Yes, and in Pennsylvania, that statute of limitations, in order to bring an original action to claim benefits, is 3 years in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Well,
So regardless of what's happened over the course of time since that original injury that, as you say, was more than 5 years ago,
Yes, sir.
at this point in time, I think it's fairly safe for me to say that the statute of limitations has expired.
Well,
However,
I
on your
was afraid
second
you were
injury,
gonna say that. Yeah, I was afraid you were going to say that.
sure. On your second injury, how long ago did that occur?
That's been over 5 years as well.
Yeah, so the same comment applies there as well, unfortunately, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've mentioned being disabled. Are you working now?
No, I can't. My back is messed up to the point that the last time I went to a surgeon, he looked at me and said, "I won't touch you with a 10-foot pole."
How old are you?
I said, thanks for your bedside manner.
How old are you, Richard?
I'm 62.
You are 62.
Yeah, I'm 62. I've been collecting disability for it's been probably 3.5 to 4 years.
Okay, I was going to suggest, if you're not already, you should look into Social Security disability.
Yeah, I have done that. Matter of fact, I filed it myself and got it the first time I filed.
So, Richard, let's sum this up so we can take some more callers, and I'll give you a couple lessons out of this, right? One lesson for everybody else out there, because it's not going to help you, is when your employer comes and tells you to sign something, always get a copy of what you signed. And if you don't get a copy, you want to make a lot of noise right away. And I understand they still put the pressure on you, but I'd make it clear. And here's another thing you can do. Here's the trick. If you hand it to me and I sign it and I hand it back to you, you don't have to give it to me, right?
Yeah.
But if I say to you, give me 2 copies, I just want a copy for me, that way I might not have the signed copy if you refuse to give me the signed copy, but at least I'll be able to show somebody else what I signed later, okay?
Okay.
So keep that in mind, number one. Number 2, there are time limits on any workers' compensation issues. So I'm going to drop you off the phone here and let these guys tell us about the time limits, and then we're going to take another caller, okay?
That sounds great. Well, listen, I appreciate it, guys.
Thanks,
you very
Richard.
much.
Okay. Well, first
Bye-bye.
of all,
540-0580 is the talk line number. Go ahead, Fred.
okay. First of all, even if he did sign something, and we don't know what it was. We don't even know if
Right.
it was something that would be legally binding. But there is a time frame whereby he would have the right to petition to have that set aside. Now, unfortunately, that's only 3 years. So that's long gone. But something else that people in Richard's situation need to know also is that in Pennsylvania, it is illegal for an employer to retaliate against an employee for having a workers' compensation claim. If he had been fired for refusing to sign it, number one, his workers' compensation claim would have continued, and number two, he may very well have also had a right to sue that employer for wrongful termination for retaliating against his workers' compensation claim.
So there's a lot of remedies available there. 540-0580. Jim, you're on the air. Hey, Jim, you're on with AJ and Fred and Carl. What's going on? Jim?
Hello?
Yep, you're on.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm calling about a disability situation as well, and thank you for taking my call. My circumstance is that I've had a self-funded disability policy for about 24 years, and I'm 70 years old. I was still working, and I filed a claim. And my disability is such that I can no longer work, and I have supporting documentation from 2 doctors. I had 3 look at me. One of them said that I could return to work. The final 2 said that I was permanently disabled. And their argument is that, well, you were going to retire anyway. Well, that wasn't the case. I had planned to work another 5 years. and but the degenerative back situation is such that I can't. I'm required to sit for prolonged periods, and that exacerbates the condition. So for all intents and purposes, I have retired because I simply can't work. And they lowballed me. They offered me a very small amount of money for 6 months. The most I can collect is for 2 years, and I thought that would be reasonable, considering I've been paying for 24 years into the policy, and that's where I stand to date. I'm waiting for they're going to send me a form to fill out, and accepting the meager amount that they offered me, and I know I can negotiate. They told me that these things are flexible. I said, what is this, an insurance company or a fish market?
So what's the question now?
Well, the question is, do I have a case?
AJ?
Well, assuming that your disability payments that you're referring to are coming from a private insurance company
They are.
And this was, I assuming you paid for private short-term or long-term disability through an insurance carrier. Is that correct?
That's correct. I don't have any other insurance through them. It's a simple disability policy and no more.
Yes.
There's nothing else involved.
What you should do is take a look at, if you're not already familiar with, what type of policy that you had purchased. Typically speaking, there's two types of private disability insurance. One of those policy types is called a specific occupation policy, and one is called an any occupation policy. And it sounds to me, from listening to your brief description of your situation, that your policy might have been a hybrid of both of those. Now, in simple terms, what that means is that those types of policies will cover the person who is disabled from their own occupation, the job they were doing at the time that they became disabled, for a short period of time up front, let's say 3 months or 6 months, which might explain why that is the amount that's currently being offered to you. Then that policy switches over to what's called an any occupation or any OC policy, which means that if you're capable of doing any type of other work that's readily available out in the general population within whatever restrictions you were given by your doctor, then they can deny coverage for that portion of the policy. And really what it is a matter of cost. The first portion of your policy is the most expensive portion because that's covering you for not being able to do the specific job you were doing, although you could do other jobs. The cheaper portion of that policy, if you will, allows the insurance carrier more leeway to deny your benefits because they can show that there are other occupations out there that you could perform. And unfortunately for the policyholder yourself, the insurance company does not have to show you that there are those jobs available for you. That sounds to me like what the policy provisions are that you're currently under.
All right, we're going to hold on. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we'll just decide whether he has a case or not. 540-0580. We'll be right back. A lot of production value in those bumpers, you know. Proud tradition here. Of course, we're going to take a few more calls. 540-0580. Got AJ Plutus and Fred Haight here with me talking workers' compensation. And I do like to take occasional question from Facebook. I got one here. I live in a house with 5 women. Do I have a claim? And the answer is no, but you have my condolences. Jim, you still with me, Jim?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You were talking about your disability claim. These guys want to tell you whether you have a case or not or what you're going to do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, Jim, it does, as AJ told you earlier, it does sound like you possibly have a situation where for ongoing disability beyond 6 months, you would have to show that you're disabled from all occupations. And whether you intended to retire anyway or not, that's just simply a credibility question.
Yes.
That if you were to go to court over it, the judge or the jury, whoever the fact finder is, would have to decide, do they believe you when they say that you intended to continue to work? And if they do, and if you are disabled as the policy defines disability, you could very well win.
Got it?
Okay.
So if you want to contact these guys off the air, how are they going to get a hold of you guys? How do we get a hold of you guys?
You can reach us at our Harrisburg phone number, 717-234-2401, or you can reach us on the web at www.paworkerscomphelpnow.com.
All right, you got that, my friend?
Yes, I do. 234-2401.
That is correct.
Okay.
All right,
well,
Jim.
thank you very much, gentlemen.
Good luck. 540-0580. Don, you're holding patiently. You want to talk about a deposit on a home?
Yes.
Okay, shoot.
Yeah, hi. I recently gave a mobile deposit, $1,000 on a double-wide mobile home from a manufacturer. And I called him 2 days later and told him we changed our mind, that we bought another one somewhere else, and I wanted my deposit back. Well, he told me, he told me he had to wait a while for the check to clear, and then he would send me the check.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I called him like 2 weeks later, and he told me he was going to meet with his boss on Wednesday, which was last week, and to see about the check. And then what happened was he called me on Wednesday and told me he wasn't giving me the check back. Make a long story short, what he did, he waited until the check cleared before he called me and told me that. And now he says he won't give me my $1,000 back.
Well, I think you have a 3-day right of rescission on a mobile home or manufactured home, but I'm not positive about that. I know you have a 3-day right of rescission on any construction work you'd have done on your home, right? So if you don't have a 3-day right of rescission, I don't know what the answer is. Why'd you change your mind? Just decide to find a better offer, or?
Well, we actually, the one that we were looking at was a display model, and it had a lot of problems with it. Like, for example, it was a display model, and it had the vinyl floor was tore, and he wouldn't replace the floor. He was just going to patch it, and my wife wasn't happy about that. So then in the meantime, we were going to another mobile home manufacturer a little bit of ways, and he gave us a better deal on one. He gave us a brand new one for the same amount of money, and he made it bigger. So after talking to him like the day later or something, that's when we decided to go with the new one instead of buying the one that was off the lot right there.
So I don't know if there's a 3-day right of rescission or not. So here's what I'm going to do. You're going to have to listen to the show into the next hour, and I'll figure it out in the meantime, okay?
Okay, appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. We'll just let your check clear, and then we'll give you back. But that's actually kind of legitimate sometimes, which is, could you imagine if you're a business person, here's the scam. The guy comes in and gives you a deposit on something, comes back in the next day and cancels, asks for his refund. You've deposited the bad check. You don't know it's not going to clear. You, in good faith, give him his $1,000. Off he goes and cashes it. So that is a known scam, which is why it would be legitimate to say I want to wait till the check clears before I refund your money if I've already deposited it. But on the other hand, it also sounds like a good way to make you say, well, no, you waited too long. Chad, what do you want to talk about? Chad.
Yes.
What do you want to talk about? You're on the air, my bud.
Oh, sorry. I have a question about home inspections.
Yeah, what do you want to know?
I had just bought my house probably 3 months ago now, and when I first came in, I had paid for a pet, like before I bought it, I paid for a pest inspection and all that stuff, and I came, the day I moved in, they cleared it and everything, said it was fine, and the day I moved in, I found termites. And so I had a termite guy come out and look at it and ended up paying to get it, fully treated. It was like $900 or something.
Who did the pest inspection? I mean, another exterminator?
No, it was actually a home inspection company.
Okay, because usually you have like a pest inspection and you have a home inspection. It's kind of two separate pieces or documents.
Yeah, the home inspection that I got had separate things, and you could, get all of them at once. And that's what I did. I got past the the test for the basement, whatever that stuff is.
Radon.
Yeah, radon.
Okay, well, here my first thought would be you go back to the person who did the bad inspection.
Right, I did, and they had said that they weren't liable for it because they didn't find anything. Like, they said they're not allowed to poke and prod around, and since they didn't find anything on the exterior or, like, anything that they saw, they weren't liable. But the termite guy did an inspection, too, while he was here. He said that there was obvious damage everywhere.
Yeah, right. In other words, so that would be a factual question for a court to determine. They would listen to your new guy say, hey, it's pretty obvious.
Right,
and
yeah.
And so the judge would have to decide who he believes.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
All right, you do have a case. Go see a lawyer.
All right, thanks.
Of course, the bad news, it's only over $900, and so if you don't have attorney's fees available to you, it's going to be a problem. So, I don't know. Okay. John, you want to talk about employers searching your vehicle? John.
Yes.
You're on the air, buddy.
Okay, here's my question, Carl. I work for a transportation company locally here in Carlisle.
Uh-huh.
And my wife and I also have a farm, and there's a notice posted on the bulletin board that states that the employer can search my lunchbox, which I have no problem with or anything like that, or my vehicle before I leave the premises.
Okay.
And, okay, my problem is this. I don't drive the same vehicle to work every day because we have a farm, and depending upon what I'm doing before I go to work,
right,
I may drive a vehicle that has tools and stuff in it that are the same as those tools that I use at work.
Right.
Do I have any right as far as if I'm on the employer's property, do I have any right to say get a search warrant, or should I make sure whatever vehicle I drive is completely empty of anything?
Yeah, Fred, go ahead.
Okay. If the vehicle is on your employer's premises, the employer does have a right to search it. They do not need a search warrant.
Okay.
So,
But here's my practical question for you. Do you have a manager or a boss or somebody who sits right above you?
Yes.
Have you gone to them and said, hey, here's my concern. I have a lot of the same tools from my farm that I use here, and can we have an understanding that, you know, if you guys want to search my vehicle and you think I'm stealing something, you know you're going to find those things in there as a natural course anyhow? And if they say, well, we don't really want to do it that way, then I suspect it might be time to come up with a way to mark the tools, you know, and that would be beneficial. But here's and here's why, because, I mean, theoretically, if you think about it, anybody who works anywhere could own a lot of the same items that are in a place of employment. So, you know, if I go out into my secretary's car and I find a stapler, it could be she's stealing from me, or it could just be she has a stapler. And if I fire her, I suspect she's going to be able to get her unemployment compensation because I'm not going to be able to show that willful misconduct. On the other hand, if she has a stapler that says Rominger Law Offices on the bottom of it, well, maybe it's a different story. Although then maybe she just took it home to do some work. So anyhow, long story short is I think you should always try to work it out with the employer first, okay?
Yeah, my immediate manager above me is extremely understandable, and I think short term the safest thing to do is try to drive a vehicle that doesn't have stuff in it.
All right, yeah, it's always smart because if they decide they want to get rid of you, they'll use it as an excuse.
Yep.
All right, my friend. Good luck.
Okay, thanks a lot.
540-0580. We'll get back from the break. We'll go take care of a few live reads and learn more about the seminars. Oh, we're back on the air. All right, real quick here. If you want to liquidate an estate or business, I recommend you call RJ Gold Auctions. He can buy outright or sell your items at auction. RJ Gold can be reached at 645-0061. He purchases outright items such as medals, pins, patches, tokens, awards, and badges, and most historical collectibles. He can pay you right away. RJ is booking site auctions for November and December. To schedule your auction, call RJ Gold, 645-0061. He's over on 6th Street in Harrisburg, PA, licensed auctioneer number AU005798. And again, since we got some more lawyers here, if you guys have some estate work, RJ takes care of these for people, so he knows what he's doing. Also, I'm going to post a picture of the cigar I'm chomping on right now from Harrisburg Beer and Cigar. They're over on Union Deposit Road here in Harrisburg. Great walk-in humidor. You're not going to even believe the selection in there. I keep telling people this. They go, "Oh, how big of a humidor can it be?" It's at a beer distributor, and I'm like, think of it as a cigar store that has some beer. All right. Now, guys, tell us a little bit more about this seminar.
Well, the seminar will take place on Thursday, November 14th at our Carlisle office located at 1 East High Street in Carlisle, PA. We are having the seminar at both 3 and 5 p.m. It's an opportunity for the public to join us free of cost to come and chat with Fred and myself. And Carl, you being the most interesting attorney in the world, will also be joining us, and we will have some light refreshments, and we can sit and discuss any issues pertaining to employment law, workers' compensation, and any other areas of law that you typically address here on your show.
Okay, well, and Shane, are we going to put that up on RomingerLaw.com so people can find it in case they don't? All right, perfect. We'll put that up there. Of course, we're going to remind you, and I think we'll run a series of ads here on HP while we're at it, so we'll change those over too. So you guys keep getting reminded about it, because otherwise, I know how this works. I go do these gun seminars sometimes, and I always get some yo-yo. He's like, "I didn't know you were doing it." And I want to be like, we've been telling you about it for 3 weeks now. So we have to keep reminding, and I know how this works. In fact, sometimes when I'm walking through Carlisle, I'll notice something new I've never seen before, and I go, how many years can I live here until I've noticed the entire town? Which just shows you how oblivious we all are in our day-to-day lives, I think. Also, before I take a few more callers here, you guys have some specialization. See, you're usually an attorney, so you guys don't know this out there in the wide world, but maybe you do. An attorney's not supposed to say that he or she is a specialist. And notice I say he or she. In 1802, I would say he. But in this day and age, you say he or she, and it may be more she's than he's these days, slightly coming out of law school. But nonetheless, so she or he has to simply say that they practice. I'm a criminal attorney. They can't say I'm a specialist in criminal law, because that's misleading according to our bar. So they do, however, have a special way of getting a designation. So, for instance, some of our local trial attorneys are board-certified trial advocates. But you guys have something else with workers' compensation. It's very unique, and you were the first people in Pennsylvania to do this, as I understand it, right?
We were among the first. This has been done for the first time. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court approved a workers' compensation certification program. It's open to attorneys who have practiced for at least 5 years, with at least 50% of their practice being workers' compensation during that time. There is a very detailed application. You submit abstracts of 10 workers' compensation cases that you've handled over the past 3 years, and then you sit for a half-day exam. There are currently only 149 attorneys in the entire state of Pennsylvania who have been certified as specialists in the practice of workers' compensation law, and I'm happy to say that AJ and I are both among
There's only another
select group.
I can do math, so there's only another 147 other ones out there across this big state. And we were joking about this earlier when we were on break, and I said, what I know about workers' compensation is enough to know not to dabble in it. But I can call you then a legitimate – I can say that you specialize in it and not get you in any trouble.
That is correct.
And AJ, you have a few years in this business.
I do, Carl. I've been practicing law in Pennsylvania for 27 years. The first 25 years of which I actually represented insurance companies defending workers' compensation cases. Over the past 2 years, I have now come to the other side. My friends joke that I have now seen the light.
Well, my son plays Angry Birds Star Wars, and of course he was just telling me about, I've unlocked the pork side.
That's correct. And if that's reference to how much I eat, that is correct as well. But I do like to give a sort of a football analogy, if you will. I explain to people I'm sort of like the quarterback for the other team that gets traded to the other team, and I'm playing my old team, and the defense hasn't changed. And in this particular circumstance, the defense cannot change.
Right.
So it does give me somewhat of a unique perspective in handling the case for the injured worker, having represented the other side for a quarter of a century.
Now, Fred, of course, you've been doing workers' compensation for how long?
Over 30 years.
Yeah.
And I used to beat up on AJ fairly regularly when he was on the other side.
He did.
So, and that sometimes is an interesting way of doing things. I sometimes say to clients, I'm going to play devil's advocate and pretend I'm the other attorney. And sometimes you can do that because you've actually been on the other side once or twice. But when you've been on the other side for 25 years, you must know all the dirty tricks of the insurance industry.
Whether or not they're dirty, I can't speak to that.
Right, he used to do them. That's why you can't call them dirty. They'd be like, it was all fine and dandy. What I would say, though, and I would say this because I always tell clients, they always feel bad about taking money from insurance companies. Like, I don't really want to sue Mr. Rominger because, it just doesn't feel right to take compensation that I just deserve. And that's not how they say it, of course. But they're flummoxed because the idea is somehow they feel like they're doing something wrong by taking a value in a lawsuit or an action. And I always say, you've paid into this system for so many years. Collectively, you'd have no idea how much money has been spent on insurance. It comes out of your paycheck, like for workers' compensation, is going to be paid by the employer. But theoretically, that's money that would have been available to pay an employee. That's money that would have been made available to make the product cheaper. So everybody pays a cost on that. We all pay our auto insurance and everything. And so when it's time to collect, why not?
That's correct.
So, all right, guys, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about workers' compensation. So if you have disability, workers' compensation, personal injury claim, get on here and check out their website, paworkerscomphelpnow.com. I put it up on my Facebook page if you want to link right through to it. And I'll see you all in a minute.